Hello, in this tutorial we're going to do some painting or drawing. So it'll be a wall that will be similar to these guess the drawing games that you may have seen and played. So I'll be taking you through how you can achieve that. So first of all, if you click on the Starter GUI, if you click the plus button and go down to Screen GUI, we're just going to place some buttons across the top so will be one way we can start painting, clear the wall, and stop painting. So I've renamed the Screen GUI to buttons, and then I've added a text button. And I'm going to rename that to clear wall. I'm just going to set some of its properties just to position it on the screen and set the size. You can make it wherever you want it. It doesn't really matter. The only important bit is that the name of it is called clear wall. So I'm just going to put it in the center of the screen, set the size, the scale to 0.1, the offset will be 0, and on the Y the scale will be 0.05 and the offset will be 0. I'm just going to change the text so it says clear wall, and then just check the text scaled box. Create another text button, so you're clicking on the plus sign next to the Screen GUI, go down to text button. I'm going to call this one Start Painting. It's pretty much the same properties that were just set on the clear wall. So I'm setting the position of the X to 0.3 on the scale. The size the same as it was on the clear wall. We go down to the text and we're going to call this one Start Painting, and then check the text scaled box. And the next text button will be Stop Painting. And just make sure there's no space between stop and painting. I did make a mistake and I noticed at the end. So just make sure that that text button is stop painting with no space. And just set in the position and the size again. It doesn't really matter how big or small you make it. And in the text, we're just going to put stop painting and then check that text scale box. So there are 3 buttons at the top. If you click on clear wall, then click the plus sign, then go down to local script, rename that to button. This will be the control to know when we've actually clicked that button. So it's script.parent.activated, so when it's been clicked, then we're just going to fire the server. We're going to create a remote event called clear wall. We'll do that later on. We're just setting that up. So easy peasy local script, short and sweet. And you click on the Starter GUI, click on the plus sign, then click on Screen GUI, rename that to Colors. So I'm just going to we're going to make a little frame on the right hand side which will have 4 colors on it which you can select, so you can paint in different colors, and there'll be another text button at the top called rubber where you can delete the painting or parts of the painting. So if you click on the plus sign against colors and then go down to text button and just rename that to rubber, and I'm just going to position this to the right hand side of the screen. And you may want to make the background of this button something other than white. So make sure it's not white and not black, otherwise you will not be able to see the text, which we will write. So when you click on it, the text will become white, and when you click on one of the colors, the text will become black. And that's the case for all of the buttons as well. It's just so you know which one you've clicked on. So then click on the plus sign against colors and go down to frame. Going to set the anchor point to on the Y to 0.5, so it's in the center on the Y axis, and then going to set its size and position. And then within this frame, we're going to create some text buttons with each of the 4 different colors. So then within the frame, if you click on the plus side against frame, then go down to text button, rename this one to red, and just going to set the position, the size, the text, and the background color as well. So just so the position for this one, you can leave it as default as 0. The size, the X will be 0.5 and the Y will be 0.5, making sure that the offset is 0, because that's in pixels and we don't want that. So it's going up to the background color, changing that to red. And scroll all the way down to the text and call that red, and then check that text scale button. And we're going to make this one white, because by default red will be the default color. So if you click on the red text button in the Explorer window and then hit Control D to duplicate it, it's just a lot easier because you've already set all the properties. You just need to reposition it and then just change the text and the background. So we're going to call that one yellow, and I'm just going to move its position over to on the X scale to 0.5, so it just moves over, and then rename its text to yellow, and then the text color will be black on this one. Then we're going to hit, if you click on yellow, the text button, then hit Control D to duplicate, call this one green. This one's going to be just below red. So let's change all its text properties. The position on the X will be 0, but on the Y this time it will be 0.5. And then go to the background, change that one to green. And then Control D again on green, and we're going to call this one blue. Change the background to blue. And then move its X position over to 0.5, and then go down to text, and then call that blue. And that's it for those buttons. Click on the colors screen GUI, uncheck reset on spawn, and uncheck enabled. If you go back to the button screen GUI, just uncheck reset on spawn. Now, if you click on replicated storage, click on the plus sign, go down to remote event, and then if you rename that to clear wall, and then again, click on the plus sign against replicated storage, remote event, rename that one to paint. In server storage, click on the plus sign against server storage, go down to int value, and then we're going to rename that to paint counter. So each time when you paint something, we can give the part a unique name. So when we want to rub something out, we know which one we need to rub out. We've always got to make sure that all these parts that are displayed that we're painting always have a unique name. So if you go into Starter GUI, click on the plus sign, go down to local script, rename that to paint. We set up some initial variables, so we need to grab the player so we can find the location of our screen GUIs. So that's in this line 2, so player.player.GUI, then we wait for the child, which is called buttons. And the same again, we're waiting for the colors screen GUI to load before it assigns that variable. We're going to need the camera, the current camera. The next one is the user input service, which we use to determine when the mouse button's been clicked. And we need a run service so we can do like a loop. So just some variables to determine when the mouse button is pressed. When it's held down, that's that mouse down one. So we'll set that to false for now. Then we get the actual mouse of the player's mouse. Some of the variables have can paint. So when we've clicked on start painting, we're going to change that variable to true. And then can delete. That's useful when you click on the rubber. So the default color is going to be red, which is really red in the brick color. And just set up a mode variable, which will be nil for now. We need a function because it's going to call that reset buttons. So each time when you click on one of the color buttons, we'll run this function just to make all the text black, and then which one we've clicked on, the text will then become white, which we will do in a minute. So we're just going to do the button click detection. So the first one is the start painting one. I'm just making sure I've spelt everything correctly. So we're just going to connect that function. So we're going to change the can paint variable to true. Just going to do a slight wait, and then we're going to change our camera. So we will create this towards the end. We'll create a camera part, and then what's going to happen here is the current camera will move to this part, and it will look directly at the wall. So the first bit of the C-frame, that's the actual camera part, which we will create its position, and then you do a comma, and then you then assign another part of what you want the camera to focus on. So this is going to be the wall, so it's going to be completely straight. And the clock.enable, we're just going to turn on that colors GUI. Now the next one is the stop painting. So we're going to change can paint to false, and then we're just going to reset the camera back to the default so it follows the player, which is the enum camera type dot custom. And then we're just going to turn the colors GUI off. So now we're going to do the buttons detection. So first of all, we reset all the buttons back to black, so the text is always back to black. So we're basically turning everything off so it looks like everything's off. And then we're going to turn the green button text to white so it looks like it's been selected. And we're going to turn the can delete value to false because we know we've not clicked on rubber. It's just the same for the rest of the buttons, so green, red, yellow and blue. So we're on to the blue one. So the colour of that one is really blue. It's brick colour. And then to set the blue text to white, and then set that can delete value to false. And the next one is the one for the rubber, because we need to set the can delete value to true. So first of all, we reset all the buttons, make the colour null, can delete is true, and then the rubber, its text rubber is going to be white. And the next bit is the run service of the rendered step. So if the mouse button down variable is true, and in brackets the campaign equals true or the can delete equals true, then we can fire the server to do something. So if it's can paint, then we're just going to set this mode to a variable to paint, and if can delete is true, then we'll set the mode to delete. Then we do game.replicate.storage.paint, which is our remote event, and then we're going to fire the server. We're going to send the player's character head.position. This will come relevant in the server script because we're going to fire a ray from the head to the mouse cursor. So that's where that mouse.hit.position comes in, and then we're going to send the color so we know what color to paint the brick, and then the mode so the server script knows what we're actually wanting to achieve. So the next bit is the user input service. So when the input has ended and it was a mouse button 1 was pressed, then we're just going to set that mouse down to false. And on the line 84, just make sure you put function open brackets input close brackets. And then line 90 is the input began. So this is when they first clicked the mouse button. We're going to detect. Then we can set the mouse down variable to true. So if you're holding down the mouse button, you can still paint. Otherwise, if you didn't have this, then you'd have to constantly click the mouse button, and that would be no good. So that's the end of that script. So we go to the server script service, and we can do the on server event here. So click the plus sign, go down to script, rename this to clear wall. So this is when you clicked on the clear wall button. So we'll do the on server event for that. Basically, we will eventually make a folder in workspace called painted, and basically what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a loop looking at all the children within this folder, and we're just going to destroy it all. So it's all gone. Then create another script in server script service, and we're going to rename that one to paint. First line is we're just going to assign the variable ss to game.serverStorage. So I don't have to keep typing game.server-storage. I just type ss instead. So this is the on-server event of the paint remote event. First argument is always player, then it's the source position, which is the character's head. The target position is the mouse pointer, then the color and the mode. So first of all, we need to fire an array. So you imagine a line being drawn from the player's head to the mouse pointer, and then we're going to find out what we hit. So the way this is going to work is when we create our wall and the frame, if that ray hit the wall, then we can do something. Otherwise, we just ignore it. So this will fire a ray 100 studs from the player's head to the mouse position. So we capture this part, what the ray hit, or if it hit anything. If it didn't hit anything, then part would be nil. So if we're in the painting mode and the part that the ray hit is the wall, which is the area where we want to paint on, then we need to increase the paint count counter to give this unique name for our part that we're about to create. So we do an instance new part, called the name. I'm just going to call it paint dash dot dot, then concatenate the paint counter value. So the first one will be paint dash 1, then paint dash 2, etc. Then we're going to set a C frame, which will be where the mouse pointer was on its the dot X and the dot Y, but on the Z we need to put it on the wall. So that will be the wall C frame on its Z axis. Then we're going to minus the actual the thickness of that wall, divide it by 2, and then minus 0.05 studs. So it puts it directly on the wall. And we're going to make these parts 0.05 thick. So this is the next line, which is the size. So we're going to make the size 1.5 studs by 1.5 studs by 0.05 studs. And then we're going to color it using that color variable. And make sure its anchored is true, otherwise it'll just fall down. And then we're going to parent it to this folder, which we haven't created yet, called Painted, which will be in the workspace. So if we're in paint mode and we've actually wanted to paint over something that we've already drawn, so if that part contains the word paint, then we're just going to change its brick color to the color that we've sent from the local script. So we don't need to create a new part. We'll just recolor whatever's there. Now if we're in the delete mode and whatever the ray is hit is has paint in the name of that part variable, then we're just going to destroy that part. So it's gone, it's disappeared, it's been deleted, and then that's it for that. So now we're going to draw our wall. So if you create a new part, and then this is important, call it wall. I'm going to say it's brick color to black. The size will be 90, 50, 1, and the position will be 0, 45, 37. Make sure that anchored checkbox is checked. Now I'm just going to draw a frame around it. If you click on the wall, then just hit Control D to duplicate it and then rename it something else other than wall. So I've just called it frame and I've made it brown, and just drag it out and just basically draw a frame around that black wall. So I'm just always using Control D because it's quicker, just to copy paste and then just drag it round. So I've set my move studs to 10, so it makes a border of 10 studs at the top and sides, and at the bottom it will be like 20 studs. And just drag that right over. And that's it, there we go. So next one, if we create another part, this is going to be our camera part. Rename that part to camera part. Set its size to 1, 1, 1, and then make sure the anchored checkbox is checked. If you go back to the wall, click on the position, press Control C, then go back to the camera part, go into position, and then hit Control V. Now what this will do is put that camera part directly in the center of that wall. Then I'm going to change my move studs to 50, and I'm just going to click on move and then move it back 50 studs. So when we click on start painting, that camera is going to be looking directly at the center of that wall. Then if you click on the plus sign against workspace, go down to folder, and then just call that folder painted. Then if we give it a test, click on play, click on start painting, and then there we go. So we can start painting, click on yellow, click on green, click on blue, and we can draw over things, and we can rub things out. And click on clear wall, and it's all gone. Click on stop painting, and it's gone. And that's it. I hope you learned something new. You feel free to use any part of this. Thank you very much.